So, very, very good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome. This is our 16th session on the Mahamudra prayer. And so, welcome to those who are here live. And for those of you joining us on YouTube, then good morning, and good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. And so, we start, as we always do, with the best motivation, healthy motivation for receiving the Buddha's teachings, loving mind. We know the whole journey is about less ego, more compassion. We're on the Bodhisattva path. Mahamudra is the very, very special method, teachings on our Bodhisattva path, which is a path of love and kindness and being at peace with ourselves and with everybody. So we try and have a big mind, including as many other minds, as many other beings as we can, and in particular, those with whom we have a very special karmic connection, those who are very real for us in this life. And then we have as pure a love for everyone, even the worst of humans and other beings, wishing them all to attain freedom, enlightenment. And then we have great joy because we have Dharma in our lives and we ourselves are on the Bodhisattva journey to freedom, which becomes, in today's teaching, this is a very important point. Where are we going with all of this? What's it really all about? So we call that realization, and today we're exploring experience and realization. So let's start with our prayers. Sonje chodam soje chonam la jansho badu dane chapsum che dagi jinso jipe sanam je drola penchera sanje drup parasho Semchen tamche dewa dang dewe jo dang den para jo che. Dongal dang dongal ji jo dang shal para jo che. Dongal mepe dewa tampa dang men shal para jo che. Yerin chadan ne tang shal we. Tanyom chempo la ne para jo che. Doje chanchen telo naroda mapa mela choche kampopa dosum sheja kunchen kamapa cheshi chungje jupa zenamdam prita tsalsum palen drupa so zablan jaja chelan yanipe yame drogun dapo kajula so wandep so kajula manam jupa zeno nam tara jinjilo shenlo gomji kampara sumpa shen zeno kunma choshen padam Sede data chope gomchen la Yeko shenpa me pare jinjelo. Mogu gomji govara sumpa shen munga tego jepe namala. Chundu sowan depe gomchen la chume mogu jevara jinjelo. Yengme gomji gnushira sumpa shen kansha tope ngo somade. Macho de kara jope gomchen la gomcha lodan travare jinjelo. Namto ngo chukara sumpa shen chiang mayen cherian chawala. Mangaro pa chawe gomchen na kode yerme top para chinjilo. Deyata shamme shammavati shammeta shatru am kure mara jite karota ke ore tejo vati olo yani vishuddha nimale malapa Naye kukure kaka grase grasana Om mukhi para mukhi amukhi shamme davane sabha graha bandhanane negre tva savabhava pravadina Vimmukta mara pasha savidva buddha mudranu gatita savamari butsarita parishuddha Viga Shantu Sava Marakama. Palen sawe lama rinpoche, dagi chewara pende den shola. Katrin chenpo gone jezonte, kuson tuche madrop saldo sol. So last week we had what can you say, a good session, if we call it that way, where we went through 3 verses. And today we're heading for another 2 verses. So in those 3 verses we went through, then they were mainly about shamatha, a still and stable mind. That's what shamatha or shine means, still, developing, finding, cultivating, becoming master of a still and stable mind. And then a verse about vipassana, using that still and stable mind to find insight, that things aren't separate from us, they are our mind's experience, the mind itself cannot be found, and that things and mind are not two, non-dual. And then a special verse about cutting the root of mind's ignorance, which leads to its samsara and suffering. There's 1 or 2 more things to think about in those 3 verses. One very important for you to know is that what we do in Mahamudra is first we must learn shamatha. We have many steps of training to learn and then to master shamatha. We must master it, not just dabble, not just do a little bit, not therapeutic peacefulness, but shamatha as a very well-handled tool, like a craftsperson with a tool. They handle it so well, do wonders with the tool. There are even people who do amazing sculpture with chainsaws, and things. Tool we handle well, shamatha. We must train. And then the same with vipassana, insight. Even though we have this famous pointing out and meeting of minds, to get there, we must train. There are many steps of insight training, vipassana training, which make us ready for the introduction to the truth of our mind in the company of our guru. Otherwise, even though pointing outs might happen for a few seconds, we can go away and misinterpret what happens. It's always like that. When you go up, when lamas used to come to Samiling, the Tai Situpa would come to Samiling, we'd all be there, up in a wonderful space. And when he left, it was horrible. It's kind of the anticlimax and the feeling. And then it's only when he left, it's like they say, you don't know what you got till it's gone. We realized just how we were being held in this space of Dharma, so beautiful. So it could well be we have peak experiences, but then because of the power of habit, samsaric mind, even seconds afterwards, we're remembering, interpreting, telling a story, trying to reproduce it. All sorts of things happen. So we need to train in vipassana so that when the magic moments happen, then they continue to be wonderful magic. So we train in shamatha, then we train in vipassana, insight, but then we need to practice the union of shamatha and vipassana. This phrase is very important. We practice them at the same time. If you remember when we looked at the verse on shamatha, and I explained something about how it's done in other traditions, and even how Gampopa, before he came to Milarepa, would sit in absorption for up to 2 weeks. And in other traditions, the absorbed mind is a very important tool. And how in Mahamudra, we don't waste our precious human life in too much absorption. We need the skill, but we don't need to spend time in it, and so on. So we don't just practice shamatha as being absorbed in peace, or insight as a growing awareness or lucidity of what the nature of our mind is. We practice the two together. And then in the training, we have, you might remember, we train first when the mind is still. So we get insight within stillness. And then we learn to work with what is called the moving mind, so that we maintain the insight we found in deep stillness while the mind is thinking. But then we need to have that same deep insight into the Buddha nature of our mind, even when the mind is angry, even when the mind is passionate and lustful, even when the mind is very dull and foggy and sort of stupid. In those states, also, we need to apply the insight. So we develop what is called the union. Now, there's too much to say about this. This course is not Mahamudra meditation instruction. This course is to help us understand the Mahamudra prayer, which tells us roughly what's going on in Mahamudra instruction. It's a map. It's a map. So then, but we do need to know that where it will end up is with a practice of meditation, which is neither uniquely shamatha nor uniquely insight. It's the two at the same time. So that's the important thing for us to know. Just a second. But then, because we are working, or I'm working from the VIIIth Tai Situpa's commentary, this brings up a lot of, let's say, interesting points. Now, I know most of you haven't done a lot of Buddhist studies like Shedra and things like this, or maybe not a lot of Buddhist meditation. So these interesting points are not for everyone here. Let's say maybe they're for nobody here, but I would like to mention them just so that in this course, as we've gone through the Mahamudra prayer, you're aware of them. So let's say in the commentary at this point, the Tai Situpa is a little bit, what can you say? Caustic isn't the term, that's too much, but he doesn't mince his words. And he takes on the criticisms of other traditions of what we do in Mahamudra. So if you don't mind, I would like to, just a second, to adjust some things. Yeah. Take a sip of coffee, mention some of these. So, first point he makes is that some other traditions, so let's not give them names, are really into Vajrayana, Tantra, practice, visualizations, mantras, inner energy work, tummo, all of the 3 levels of Vajrayana practice that can be there in some schools before Mahamudra, before Dzogchen, whatever we call it. And so Those 3 levels I mentioned last time are a first level, which corresponds to the first empowerment in Vajrayana, the Vase empowerment, is where you need to practice until, we can't even call it a visualization, your reality becomes that of what we're visualizing. Like if it's Chinrezig, you actually become Chinrezig, not just in the practice for a moment, but you identify, this is the whole point, your identity becomes Chinrezig. Chinrezig is who you really are. When you're sitting on the seat doing Om Mani Padme Hum, you are Chinrezig. As you go and walk through life, you're walking along the street as really and truly your mind's image of you. And for me, it's not Ken Holmes, it's Chinrezig in a Ken Holmes body, but that's very, very secondary. So the identification with the body of light of the deity is the first step, the first empowerment, the first stage of practice. And the second stage, which corresponds to the secret empowerment, is when, as Chinrezig or as the deity, then we work on the inner energy centers, channels, and so on. So it's yoga work, and we refine that work, and in the process, we purify our karma. When that's mastered, so that's you in retreat, probably doing lots of jumping up and down and exercises and very deep mind work and awakening Kundalini and all that kind of thing. When that's mastered, then there's the third, which is called the wisdom empowerment. It's actually 2 words in Sanskrit, prajna jhana empowerment, whereby we have to realize then, having mastered our self-image and identification, having mastered inner energies, then we have to realize the impact of mind on the inner body of energies, the way the energies flow, the way the energies have flown all our lives and all this life because of past karma, because of our mind. It's wisdom about the mind. So all of that involves visualizations, mantra work, inner channel work, and mind work. So some say, oh, Mahamudra can only be practiced after you've done that, because Mahamudra puts it all together. Not as 3 levels, but it's called, it's like the 4th empowerment. And so that isn't the case. And then also this emphasis on shamatha. Whoops, sorry, I just collapsed a whole load of papers. There's a very funny thing. A couple of months ago when Boris Johnson was giving a talk, and people at that level, you have people to write your talks. I have a friend who's for many years was a talk writer for the boss of the EU, European Union. And so, it's a big job. You need to get days gathering information for one talk, then you write the speech and you prime whoever it is. So anyway, Boris Johnson had his pieces of paper and he dropped them. And he obviously hadn't memorized them. So he got really fluffed. Anyway, I don't usually use paper, but sometimes I need it for quotes. I just drop them. So anyway, as you've seen in Mahamudra, we can do without the visualizations and the mantra practices. We can do. It's very helpful if they're there as well. That's the best combination. But we can do without them. And the whole focus is on shamatha, vipassana. So the 8th Tai Situpa said, then there are those who've never heard of using such terms as shamatha and vipassana when talking about Vajrayana practice. those people have heard very little indeed. And he assures us the majority of tantras and their commentaries on Vajrayana practice offer presentations of shamatha and vipassana, and in particular, Pao Dorje, very famous tantric master, says in his text called The Ubiquitous Conduct of Yoginis, first, Dharmakaya is taught. First, Dharmakaya, Buddha nature, is taught. This is expressed by Mahamudra. Mahamudra is Dhammadhatu. All yogas are what are there for the understanding that comes through shamatha and vipassana. He also says, same master, it is explained that the great champion of all yogas, the great champion of all yogas, is shamatha and vipassana. They are foremost in the attainment of Dharmakaya. So he makes, Tai Situpa makes this point. What we're doing with Mahamudra, and as I said last week, I quoted last week, if we do the shamatha, the vipassana, all of the, what we call siddhis, all of the superpowers that come through tantric practice will just come automatically, by the way. You don't have to puff and pant and do yogic exercises and all, go to a cave up in the snows. They will just happen. Miracles will happen if we stay focused on the essential. But then this leads us into areas of reflection and comparison between traditions. Because although we're talking about practice here, not about the view, the whole of our practice is positioned on the fact that the nature of thoughts is Dharmakaya, the nature of mental activity, not just thoughts, all mental activity, perception through our five senses, memory, ideas, everything, in all of our relative mind, mental activity is Dharmakaya. Nice idea. And you can hear the idea because you've read it often. Everything's Mahamudra, everything's Dzogchen, the nature of all mind is that. Yeah, great, got it. Well, you don't. None of us got it until we're very, very enlightened. But the idea makes sense. So he explores this a little bit, because once we start really looking into what happens in meditation and post-meditation when you practice shamatha, vipassana, and then the union of shamatha and vipassana, what is really going on? And especially with the nature of mental activity like anger or lust, as well as serenity, that is Dharmakaya. Stop and think. Is it? Let's stop for a moment and get angry. Let me tell you what terrible, rotten, ugly people you are. And I'm so fed up having you all here as students on my thing. I could have got a better lot anywhere I went to. And anyway, I wish I didn't have to look at you all day long like this when I'm giving a talk or whatever it is. So, I mean, then get really fed up, get really angry. Is that Dharmakaya? What the hell are they talking about? Anger is anger. Lust is lust. Where's the Dharmakaya in there? Dharmakaya is Buddha. Dharmakaya is Buddha. Now, fortunately, in Vajrayana, when it's authentic, we have the possibility to meet authentic gurus. There are lots of fake ones, there are lots of fake Rinpoches, Tulkus, all the rest of it, but there are some authentic ones. I'm sorry to say that, but it's what my own teachers say. They talk with each other about the percentage of fake tulkus. Tulkus, reincarnate lamas. Some say maybe 1 in 15 is authentic. Some say no, more like 1 in 20. It's what happened in Tibet. But there are authentic ones. Okay, there are authentic ones. So in them, we get to meet the living expression of what we're talking about in these verses. Like the 16th Karmapa. These ones, these days, they've become legends already. When I was younger, there were people I met, worked with, received teachings from. Amazing. Some of them are no longer with us, some are. So like the 16th Karmapa, His Holiness Dalai Lama, Dilgo Chensi Rinpoche, Akon Rinpoche. These people embodied Dharmacharya. And I think at this point in the teachings, we need to remind ourselves of what for us would be the sacredness of Dharmacharya. It's not just the blank page of mind before we color it with karma. It's not neutral. It would be easy when you do a lot of shamatha, a lot of exploring the nature of mind, to think of it, to think where we're going is to a great, how can you say, neutrality. And we hear the word equanimity, meditative equipoise, things like this. But when we read the life of Buddha, the first thing that impressed people before he opened his mouth and spoke wasn't the ideas. It was Buddha's presence. So strong that people dropped everything. That they felt this is it. We've been talking about it all the time. This is it on 2 legs. It's here with the 16th Karmapa. It was amazing. There are no questions to ask, nothing to say. He embodied, and the room was filled with, we call it, whatever you call it, love, beauty, serenity, everything that's right. Goodness, morality, light, clarity, wisdom. It was just all there beyond the words. He didn't need to prove it. He just was it. And when we read stories of the 16th Karmapa from so many Rinpoches, they all come back to that. He just was it. Like these days, His Holiness Dalai Lama, and so on. So this, what we will call beauty, this highest expression of love we can ever find anywhere. This most wonderful compassion that loves everybody and cares for everybody and has the means, the skill to help those who are ready to be helped, and so on. We must remind ourselves of that. So anyway, I think I better get on with today's verses. I did want to plunge into another topic that's related to this. But it's about, it says first we need to know Dharmacharya. We do that through the presence of our Guru. And then we need to recognize that Dharmacharya presence in everything. And so there's what are called reversal meditation. So we won't go into the debates with other schools. But what the VIIIth Tai Situpa talks about is reversal meditation, whereby we reverse the flow of samsara. We overcome samsara by being sleeves rolled up and hands on in there, in our jealousy, in our pride, in our lust, in our anger. When those things occurred, we're not just putting them away as something other, because nothing is other than the Dharmacharya. It's everywhere. It's the Mahamudra, the great seal that stamps everything. So we have to find it everywhere. I'd just like to read you some quotes from the VIIIth Situpa's commentary, and I won't unpack them any more than just read the quotes. So our critics say, teachings which rely heavily upon likenesses to practice so-called reversal meditations are faulty. And you Karjupas are also repudiating your own logic by saying, which says that thoughts are Dharmakaya. Well, and the VIIIth Tai Situpa says, there's no such fault here. What is taught in reversal meditation is, for instance, to use passion under the control of the exceptional methods of Tantra to eliminate ordinary passion. When one does that, the passion that contains skillful means no longer has the usual characteristics of worldly passion, but instead becomes the very antidote to passion. It is reversal meditation. And because you're saying if there's skillful means there, in the case of passion, lust, then you're not working with the thing itself, it's something different. He says, no, it's true, it is. So he says, to take passion for an example, when practicing Mahamudra, there is similarity in kind to the workings of desire. I think we're all grown up here, so I can just quote it. It's not a children's television program. So he says, there is similarity in kind, such as embracing, kissing, grinding of hips, and so on. And the same is true for all the other forms of minds. They are similar in kind. But you must remember, when we speak of likeness, since it is like something, it is not actually that thing. So if it's it's talking about the use of sex with a partner, when that happens, in order to overcome desire. So there's skillful means, which means the whole way the two people relate is no longer under the power of habitual passion. It is upwards and outwards. It is taking the whole thing somewhere else, somewhere sublime, that frees you from worldly passion, but maybe makes passion so strong that if you can handle that and recognize Buddha within it, within the partner, within the actions, within each moment, if that can happen, then there is liberation. Please remember this, we're coming back to this, then there is liberation in a moment. So it is like it because you're actually doing it. You're there making love. It's like it, but it isn't worldly passion. It is reversing the whole process. So he says, if you wonder whether or not, so this is, where people can get this wrong is they think that, okay, I'm signed up for Dzogchen, I'm signed up for Mahamudra, I can just go ahead and indulge. After all, the whole thing's Dharmakaya. Yeah, great, let's have a drink. Let's have a Dharmakaya drink. Okay, let's jump into bed. This is the Dharmakaya bed after all, and we're going to make Dharmakaya love. It's all Dharmakaya. It's great. It's all void. It's all Dharmakaya. It's all Buddha. It's all Buddha nature. So Tai Situpa says, if on the other hand, you're confused and you think that the full-blown afflictive mental states can be used to dispel themselves, well, go ahead and try. Go ahead and try to remedy the passion of sexual intercourse by engaging in it over and over and over again. Then you'll find out it don't work. you're just going to get more and more randy, you're going to need more and more of it, and you're going to be deeper and deeper in samsara, or drinking, or any of those things. We need a guru. We need a guru's instructions. And these words about everything, the nature of mental activity is Dharmakaya. We need to understand that through shamatha, vipassana, and our guru's instructions. So then now, in the next two verses, we're looking at two things called experience and realization. Experience means both experience and experiences. So as we meditate, experiences, new experiences are bound to come. Through years of meditation, then we become experienced in shamatha, vipassana, the instructions, the Dharma, applied to what's happening in the vivid reality of our practice. So we have experience. It develops, it changes. So we have a verse about experiences. And usually Tai Situpa, when he teaches these, he introduces the Tibetan words. So we have nyam as experiences, and tok is realization. Tok. Nyam and tok. Experiences, realization. We need to understand the difference. Experiences come and go. They're impermanent, no matter how wonderful, how horrible. They come and go because they are produced by causes and conditions, circumstances. Experiences arise because of causes and conditions which can be overlapped. We can have the immediate causes and conditions. Maybe you held your breath in a vase breathing for 2.5 minutes, immediate conditions. There is the shorter term conditions that you've been doing many prayers, you do a lot of practice, your whole mind is in a certain place just now. There are longer term conditions of what you did in past lives in all sorts of ways, about connection with the lineage, what you did in meditation practice, what you did in retreat. Many, many circumstances produce this moment by moment experience. Our Bodhisattva journey, our Mahamudra journey, is not aiming for a specific experience. This is very important. There isn't some configuration of mind and body and whatever it is. Well, this is it, Mahamudra. And you lost it. That's why we had these verses earlier on about the view. Nothing you can say, this is it. No way you can say this is not it. We're talking about now it becomes real. You're actually practicing and things are changing. You're no longer the you who grew up and evolved slowly to become the you as an adult. Because of your sincere practice, your diligent practice, things are changing and your world is changing and you're having previously unhad experiences. So we need to know that we are not working all of this towards an experience which is, this is it, Dharmakaya. Remember the verse. These verses, they're so precious. There's nothing you can say, this is it. And nothing you can say, this is not it. It goes so far. So now we're going to get experiences. Now, all sorts of experiences and 3 special aspects of experience that this next verse will talk about. So for the actual experiences, I thought, let's take a little journey into Karmapa, just to see, well, like top of the range, what might happen if you're an ace meditator. But anyway, it's going to come to all of us. So this is from Karmapa's life story. I'd hoped to do this in the talk, the one-off talk on Karmapa, but I just ran out of time. So let's it's about Tummo. Milarepa gave him all the teachings in quite a short period of time, and Karmapa immediately immersed himself in the practices and quickly developed the experiences and insights of these teachings. Each day, his insights grew and grew, just like a sprout coming out of the ground. He was fully satisfied and extremely happy with his progress. He meditated on Tummo, and each day he had a new experience. One extremely cold winter night, he was meditating completely naked in a cave to test the inner heat that he developed. He remained warm throughout the night, but in the morning, when he stopped doing the practice, he froze completely. He did this meditation for a week, and at the end of the week had visions of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. When he went to Milarepa to report all of his experiences and the visions, Milarepa says, well, it's not good, it's not bad. Make more effort, make this more the status quo rather than just an experience. Don't be attracted by such visions. Rather, perfect the power of Tummo. So then Karmapa meditated intensively for 3 months. And at the end of this time, he felt the entire universe was spinning like a huge wheel. After feeling this for a long time, he went to Milarepa to ask for advice. Milarepa said, yeah, not good, not bad. It's just a sign that the various thoughts and energies which go into the subtle energy channels are now gathering in the central channel. You need to put more effort. You need to meditate even more than you're doing. So after doing even more practice, he had the vision that Chinrezig penetrated him through the top of the head and dissolved into him and merged within him. And he asked Milarepa. Milarepa said, yeah, not good, not bad. It's an indication that your crown chakra energy center is starting to open up. During his meditation, Karmapa underwent a series of internal physical changes. He felt a violent wind and a flow of hot air going up and down along his central channel. He reported this to Milarepa, who said, yeah, it's not good, not bad. It's an indication that the subtle energy channels are connecting with each other in the body. When you gain control of these subtle channels, and they do connect up, then you experience these sensations. But you need to go back, just keep on going, carry on. Another time he had a complete vision of all the various states of the Deva realms. He had a vision of the higher gods pouring white nectar over and initiating the gods in the lower states. Milarepa explains, yeah. It's not good, it's not bad. It's an indication of the opening up of the throat chakra and its potential. The various sources and places of bliss are now developing in each of these main chakras of your body. And at this point, Milarepa gave Karmapa many yogic exercises to do. Mudra, hand gestures, lost my place. And movements of the body, yogic movements of the body, to open up other subtle energy centers. He told him, don't be too attached to these things. Just take them as indications of your progress. Don't get distracted by them. Instead, just go along and perfect it all. At this level of the meditation, it is extremely important for the disciple to live in close contact with the Guru, because the disciple needs very specific guidance. If the disciple lives a long way from the Guru, then the Guru cannot step in a timely manner, which is crucial for the student to progress. And if the Guru himself has no personal experience of what the student is going through, then there's a great problem. All the progress of the disciple is stopped at that time. Therefore, it is essential to have an extremely realized and experienced Guru, and to receive daily guidance for each step of meditational progress. So at this stage, Gampopa was able to depend for food completely on samadhi, absorption. He never needed ordinary food. One night, Gampopa dreamt of an eclipse of the moon and an eclipse of the sun. He also dreamt that there were two types of beings devouring the sun and the moon, the size of a hair from a horse's tail, and the other appearing to be thin strips of insects. Eating the sun and the moon. And this is like a vivid hallucination. You're there and there's the sun and the moon and the insects are eating them. When he went to look for Milarepa's advice, Milarepa said, don't worry, no, you haven't taken a forced track. It wasn't good, it wasn't bad. It's a sign of progress. It means that the subtle winds of the two side channels are now beginning to get into the central channel. So it goes on, but I think, what can we say, that's enough for you to get the idea. And Gampopa's story is amazing because it does give us insight into what we're talking about by experiences. So let me first of all read you this next verse, verse 19, verse 20. Without involvement, great bliss never ceases. Without labeling, luminous clarity is free from obscuration's shroud. Beyond the intellect, no thought is spontaneously present. May these effortless experiences flow without interruption. Shempa me pidechen junche me, senzi me pe orsa, dripyo tra, lole tepe, mitok, limjidrup, sol mi nyamnyong, junche me parasho. So now this is where the support diagram that I sent out, and if you're watching this on YouTube or if you've not received it, then please write in to courses@protonmail.com, which you'll find on the web. So you've got this diagram. So there are all sorts of experiences, meditation experiences, but out of all of those passing experiences, we've seen devas, insects, sun, moon, upper realms, lower realms, all sorts of things happening, produced by causes and conditions. This is typical of experience. But then, in general, three things ought to be emerging. These are connected with the vipassana. Remember, this insight is one thing and one thing only. Insight means Buddha mind is present. Buddha mind has three qualities, which are bliss, clarity, and then here it's non-thought, because that's the easy translation. But it's not just thought, it's not just thinking, it's not just words in the head and descriptions and analysis. It's mental activity, habitual mental activity. Let's call it non-thought, because that's what it looks like in Tibetan. So these should be emerging. It is bliss, the bliss of Dharmacharya. It is the clarity of Dharmacharya. And it is the absence of mental activity that is the way Dharmacharya is. So we are learning to be in the true nature of mind because of all we've done, and those three will be there. But we're not 100% there yet. We're not Buddha. So what happens is that when we experience bliss and clarity and non-thought, we will alloy with them, we will mix with them our habitual worldly reactions to such things. So our path of experience will involve discovering bliss. Wonderful, wonderful. And clarity and non-thought. But then our path of experience is learning to work with those so that we avoid three things. So the three things are in the little lozenges. So it is clinging to the bliss. Let's use the word clinging to the bliss. And then with the clarity, we say belief in characteristics or perception of characteristics. And then with no thought, there is, let's call it, the idea of no thought. So here we have a prayer which is saying, may there be bliss, the experience of bliss, but without clinging. May there be clarity, but without spoiling it with characteristics, ideas, projections, labels, all that kind of thing. May there be no thought, and this last one's very, very subtle, without the idea of no thought. Let's call it idea. There's no way you can jump into this. This is the work of your experience, your session after session experience as you sit. You sit 7-point posture, you're doing the Mahamudra, the instructions, whatever you've been given by your teacher, and then bliss will happen. This is bliss beyond happiness and suffering, beyond bliss and non-bliss. It's not a bliss produced by circumstances. It will lead us to become aware of our whole involvement with bliss produced by circumstances. It's such good coffee. Circumstances. It was made with filtered water. It is some of the very, very best Kenyan coffee. The water was just below boiling temperature because boiling water spoils it. And then it's kind of sat, it's still warm, but now the fullness of the flavor with the kind of overtones of berries, and it's there. Oh, it's so nice. So here we are in a human body, incarnated as a result of hundreds of lifetimes. We've got these things, eyes and tongue and a nose and ears and nerve endings all over our body. In the normal run of things, some things we taste are very pleasant and some things are really not pleasant. Some things we see bring us happiness. Landscapes and space and beautiful flowers and all those things we see. The photographers put on social media, beauty, and food, tastes, and so on. And then physical sensations. I have friends in, where are they? South Africa. They have the most comfortable sofa I ever sat in. It's amazing. It was probably very, very expensive. But as you sit into it, it's kind of time delayed. You sink and then sink a little bit less. And then it's not too soggy, it's not too hard. And it wraps itself around you. And as you're sitting, you think, gosh, this is the best sofa in the whole world. Somehow your nerve endings are translating what happens. And then you can sit in a hard seat of an Indian bus on an overnight journey. And it's very, very different. So we are used to pleasure and pain. And they depend on each other. They're relative to each other. When the pain stops, how wonderful, and so on and so on. This is bliss, which has nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. This is bliss which is there if you're on an Indian bus or in the best sofa in the whole world. This is bliss which is there if you're eating the worst food or the very best food. You're not psyching yourself into a state of bliss everywhere. This is the natural bliss of Buddha mind, which you recognize in all circumstances, including the quotes we saw earlier on about the gnashing and grinding of hips and everything. It's there all the time. So because we have thousands of lifetimes of habit of wanting what is pleasant and blissful, thousands of lifetimes, then it's natural that when the bliss of our meditation experience happens, that we get attached to it. It means if we want it back, we want it more. So there is a clinging to it. Remember Milarepa's comments to Gampopa, it's not good, it's not bad. When it's there, it's Buddha mind bliss. Now you lost it. That's meditation. We're there, we're not there. We're on a path. So we don't cry when it goes. We're not striving to create it artificially. Like in the 6 instructions of Tilopa, we're not trying to massage our meditation back into that state which we have somehow snapshotted in our mind, thinking that's it. I'm not here. I'm not in it. I need to get back to it, and so on. So how do you do that? Well, as Milarepa taught Gampopa, you need your hands-on, perhaps even when it's intense, day by day, instruction from a teacher who really knows what they're talking about. They're so rare. They're so rare. And it may well be that we never get there in this lifetime, so it may not be a problem for most of us. But we're looking at Mahamudra. So now there's the bliss. In the commentary, Tai Situpa says, what is this bliss? It's both your mind is blissful and your body is blissful. It's all pervading. The clarity is this all-knowing Buddha mind. It knows anything, and everything just is in its isness. Like people, they just are. They are who they are. They are the results of all their karma. But you don't have the labeling, that's the results of his karma, her karma. They just are in this moment, and everything's there. There is an isness. but through hundreds, thousands of lifetimes of not just labeling, but needing a label, needing a definition, needing the map, needing the landscape. We talk. We attribute characteristics. They may be, on a relative level, very, very true characteristics. We've become a Dharma expert. We know lots about karma, cause and effect, and so on. It's not that it's not true. It's just that it's gumming up the works, because as long as there is this, and it gets more and more subtle, this projecting and attributing of characteristics, labels, and the feeling that goes with it of I know what's happening, I know what's going on, I know all of this, it stands in the way of fluid, total openness to Buddha mind. So it has to go, and our meditation journey of experience is the letting go of the attribution of characteristics. And there's lots of interesting discussion here between Majjhimaka followers who do a lot of their discovering the nature of mind through defining characteristics, especially using words like shunyata, dhammadhatu, dhammakaya. This is this is bliss, this is whatever. This is. No, it isn't. All those is are just the mind going blah, 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 because it needs to, it's like when kids get talkative, little kids, and you hear them kind of repeating and saying, we're like that. Anyway. Then the last one, no thought. Buddha mind doesn't think, doesn't need things, never had a thought in it. It's totally 100% spontaneous, without thought and beyond thought. Sometimes when you sit in it, it's not even a voice, it's not the attributing of characteristics. It's this familiarity or illusion of familiarity, where there is something in you which is saying, but without saying a word, no thought. It's not like you're thinking, this is no thought. That's the previous one, that's the attribution of characteristics. There is a comfort zone. It's kind of like a yogic, comfortable armchair. Where, oh, nice. Oh, yeah. This is the no thought, nothing going on. So you're not saying that. It's too subtle for Ken to describe. But it's the idea of no thought. Now, what happens if these, we're not just working with getting rid of the clinging to the bliss and the attribution of characteristics to the clarity and the idea of no thought to no thought, if we actually get lost and we really are attached to the bliss and we're starting to do whatever we can physically, mentally, and so on to perpetuate, to make it happen, then we come to the danger point. Now, I want to deviate here into our current Tai Situpa's commentary on this verse. He puts his finger on it. He says, when people start having experiences, I'm happy because they need to have meditation experiences to evolve. But he said also, I think this is danger time. When the real, it's wonderful, people are diligent, people are devoted, this is what makes experiences start to happen. They're doing the mechanics of the practice inside them. They are fed up with samsara. They are really connecting up with the lineage. All of that's happening. But then, because experience is so powerful, It's so immersive, and we can get it wrong. So Tai Situpa says this is a danger time. It's an example, okay? I'm not talking about this topic exactly. I'll give you an example. Many people I've come across have had enough of human relationships, this endless search for the soulmate that goes on in samsara. So they come, they become monks, they become nuns, they want to go into retreat. You can guarantee almost that at that moment in the year before going into retreat, their karma, which is endless, if it's going to drag somebody out of the woodwork of life for them to fall in love with, it will happen then. It's amazing. The magnetic mechanics of karma are incredible. And so somebody in their own journey will be taking, oh, it ended up at Saniling. It was kind of magical. And then we met. So this person who's decided they're never going to have one more human relationship, all of that stuff's a load of whatever, all of a sudden they rewrite the story. Because what? Because the experience is so strong. Their heart goes out to somebody else, and all of a sudden something that was missing feels it's not missing, and so on and so on. It's an example. It's not what we're talking about here, but it's an example of how experience can be so strong that it changes your whole perspective on things. So while we're trundling along nice and slowly on our bodhisattva path and learning and practicing and meditating, then we can make progress. But once strong experiences start, we need to maintain focus, the bodhisattva focus, and so on and so on. Now, when the experiences are very strong, then we need to be very careful with attachment to bliss and to learn how to cut it off immediately, as soon as possible, and so on. The methods we need from our teacher. So if we don't do that, you'll see on your diagram three like bubbles, and it shows how good meditators can end up getting born in the sense realm, sometimes called desire realm in texts, or the form realm of the gods, or the formless realm of the gods, through dwelling in the clinging to bliss, the belief in the characteristics, and the idea of no thought. So verse 20 is about that. So it says, without the involvement, which takes away the true bliss, the great bliss of Dharmacharya, without the labeling, then luminous clarity, which is naturally there, carries on. And beyond the intellect, and the very subtle aspects of the intellect, then when there's no thought, naturally present, spontaneously present, he prays, may these effortless experiences flow without interruption. So first we need to learn to make the effort, how to recognize and stop the clinging and the projecting and the obstacles to non-thought. And then we become so used to them. This is what skill in meditation is about, again and again and again. In Gampopa's story, it's when Milarepa shows him his calluses on his bottom, how he sat for hours, most of every day, for so many years. Gradually, these effortless, true and useful experiences flow. So then the result of experiences which come and go and which are there due to causes and effects, all the causes and conditioning of our meditation and so on, is that we get tok, realization. It's totally different, and it's where our Dharma journey is going. This may not be happy news for some people. I mean, if you thought we were going to go to great bliss, and it's like, well, whatever you imagine great bliss would be and what yogis get up to and their greatest of blissfulnesses. But where we're going is Buddhahood. Buddha's peace. And we come right back to the Four Noble Truths. We are going beyond suffering forever. We are going beyond creating causes for future suffering forever. So realization, tok, is the enlightened wisdom that will never change. It's not changing like experiences, it grows. Level after level on the path, we become wise. You know, there's a difference between a clever human being and a wise human being. There's a difference between an erudite human being and a wise human being. Wisdom emerges. It just knows. A wise gardener knows the plants, the seasons, the soil, everything. They just know. It's in everything they do, that knowing. A wise human being who counsels you just knows. They didn't get it from books. They didn't get it from a training. They didn't just do a course. They know. So this knowing, which will just get better and better and ends up with Buddha's wisdom, is realization. It's so much embodied in the four great truths, the four noble truths. So realization means that this Buddha mind, which at first we glimpsed, and then we had longer glimpses, and then more and more, longer and longer glimpses until there's a flip at first bodhisattva level, or at one stage in our Mahamudra yoga, where Buddha mind becomes our default mind. And all the history is just there somewhere to be worked with. So realization is the growing, timeless, changeless wisdom that's always been of Buddha mind. And then that wisdom also has those three qualities: bliss, clarity, no thought. But now that we've removed the obstacles, the habits of clinging to the bliss, wanting it and so on, now we've removed those the three qualities are inseparable. They are natural to Buddha mind, which is why I mentioned earlier that encounters with truly enlightened beings, the 16th Karmapa or Dalai Lama and so on, they are priceless, because we've, from where we are, get some taste of how magnificent, how beautiful, how wonderful, how at ease, how wise, how skilled such a mind can be. The appearance of that mind within us is realization, tok. So it says, involvement with experiences, clinging to the pleasant, vanishes of its own accord. The harm of thoughts that are just illusions is naturally purified into spaciousness. In the ordinary mind, there is nothing to leave or take, nothing to remove, nothing to be acquired. May the truth of the uncomplicated universal essence be realized. Zangyen nyampe zimparang sadro, ngen tok truparang shin ying suda. Tamashipa panglang tral tokme. Chucha shuni tempa to parashu. So here we're looking at realization. Now, this word realization works quite well in English. It's not light bulb, realization, or like yesterday I realized blah, 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 blah. What's it nothing to do with blah, 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 blah. This is realization in the sense of making real, becoming real. Who you really have been in all your lives, but haven't recognized and haven't benefited from, is now really and truly becoming real. The feeling as that happens is I've always known this. I've always been this, but without the I. Most natural thing. So in this verse, we get introduced to a very important Mahamudra term, the ordinary mind. It's not a special mind. There's no it, which is a special mind, a paradise, a particular experience that we're aiming for. This natural condition, let's call it, or it's called in here, the uncomplicated universal essence. It's the essence of every moment. And what I didn't have time to develop earlier when we went to the VIIIth Tai Situpa's commentary is that, of course, we can be in every moment. But here we're talking about the essence of every moment. Not the same thing. The enlightened essence of every moment. Sometimes animals are very much in the present moment, amazingly so. Or some very spaced out human beings or crazy people are in the present moment. We're in the true nature, the enlightened quintessential nature of each moment. That's what Mahamudra is. Mahamudra, the great seal that stamps each moment, even each moment of anger or pride or jealousy or whatever it is. So it is the universal essence. Anything, everything, there is nothing which is not it. And there's no specific thing which is it. So it says, may the truth of this universal essence be realized. And then it says, uncomplicated. So when we look, we don't look here, but in this verse, but when we go through the accomplishment of Mahamudra, we have 4 stages. So in there, one of the stages is beyond complication. To get there, we need to understand how complicated we are. I can guarantee you're so complicated. I know I'm so complicated. So the whole journey is, how do we get free from? This is liberation, beyond the suffering that our complications make. We are fantastically good at making things complicated. You've no idea. It's ridiculous, but we're past masters at making our minds complicated. And everything just is. And everything is Buddha. But we're far, far, far from being there. So we need to work with recognizing how we complicate things, understanding the nature of that complication of the mind, seeing how our very own mind can deal with complication in many ways, but how in the Mahamudra way we can deal with that complication by seeing Buddha, learning to see Buddha in each moment, the beauty of our mind, the peace of our mind, the love and compassion that we truly are, the light that we really are. Using each moment as a springboard to the truth of Buddha in our Mahamudra way would take us beyond the complication. So the prayer is, may this uncomplicated, natural essence be realized. So in a way, it's very similar to the previous verse in the wording. These three things about bliss, clarity, no thought. With experience, the verse is pointing out where we can go wrong and what to avoid. And in realization, we are praying to work through those habits and for the result, Buddha mind, with its natural bliss, clarity, and non-thought, to simply manifest. So I think we'll stop there for this morning. We more or less did verses 20 and 21. Realization is what it's all about, but as we've seen so many times, it's beyond words. So there's not too much we can say about it. We can say much more about experiences, because they're the working raw material of our path. What we're going to realize is beyond any of the labeling. So let's dedicate anything that was good and useful today to the welfare of all of our fellow beings. Sonam diye tamche zikpani tomne ne pedranam pamchene je ganache palak trukpaye zipe sole drowa drowarasho janchob semcho rimpoche ma jepanam je jochik jepan yampa me padam kongne kongdu dalwarasho gewa di nyotoda chaja chempo drukjone drowa chikjang malupa teisala koparasho. So just to remind you, next week is, I think, Tonglen week. So we meet again in a fortnight's time. Let's put everybody on screen. And I welcome, excuse me, your comments or questions. And a very warm hello to those who are here, who I didn't get a chance to say hello to at the beginning.
Ken, may I just...
Yes, Anna, hello, yes.
Hello. Mention a couple of... I have actually one question and one just an observation from my own practice. So I'll start with the observation. As you were talking about how karma brings out of the woodworks, various... you
Yes.
think you're nicely plodding on your path and you're getting a bit kind of more confident in your practice and bang, something comes out. Right, and you have to deal with it, or it just might be just challenging thoughts. You're overworked and your mind is not quite settled, and out of nowhere doubt will come, or irritation will come, and so on. And at these moments, on a good day, I remember a while back I was listening to one of the talks by Jack Kornfield, and in that talk he was talking about how Mara came to challenge Buddha just before Buddha got enlightened, right? So he says when in his practice these challenges come along, he has this very light-hearted way of putting it. He says, "Oh, here you are, Mara, my old friend. In you come. Let's sit together." So every time when I come to a challenging point or temptation of any kind, comes along, I have the same kind of thing. It really helps me really great deal when I just actually say this. Oh, hello, Mara. Here you are again. Oh, come in. Let's sit together. And it makes it so much lighter and easier. And the burden, the weight of the obviously, I'm not talking about anything really big here. Okay, I'm not talking about traumas, losses, and things like that. I'm talking about daily occurrences that when accumulated, they can actually bring us down a bit. So yeah, so that's one thing about welcoming Mara to sit with me. And the question was, you are mentioning that in nowadays one needs to be really careful about the following the modern gurus, and how you know, as you say, 1 in 20 only are authentic. Would you be able to, and I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but if possible, would you be able to give us a little bit of guidance of how to recognize one, and maybe you already know any particular ones other than Tai Situpa and Dalai Lama?
Yeah, this is very awkward. This is very awkward, because I don't think there are texts that tell us the qualities of an authentic guru. First of all, in the Bodhisattva teachings, we have texts that tell us they should have 8 key qualities. Another one says we can sum these up as 4 key qualities, or if not, at least they must have these 2. If we take them as a teacher on the Bodhisattva path, if in the special aspect of Bodhisattva path it is a guru, then it gives us, like in Torch of Certainty, Jungle Contra's book, or so on, it tells us the qualities of an authentic guru, the qualities of a worthy disciple for that guru. It will be very hard these days to fulfill those. We're all doing our best. From where we are, it is very hard to judge. And often the most, the skill of charlatan, as the word Tai Situpa uses, gurus, some of them are outright 100% charlatans. And I think this 1 in 15, 1 in 20 came from these days, because in mainland China, there is a proliferation of Tibetans who've invented themselves as tulkus with a CV and all the rest of it. They earn a lot of money, and it's easy money, because it's much easier to fake being a High Lama than it is to fake being a scholar. To fake being a scholar, you need the knowledge, and people can soon see if you know or you don't know. To be a High Lama, you just put your hand on people's heads, you give empowerment ceremonies, you rattle things around and look good. And it's much easier to fake. It's not my words, it's what my teachers tell me. So there's a proliferation of those in mainland China at the moment. But even in the past, in Tibet, before the Chinese invasion, it was maybe 1 in 5, 1 in 10, something like this. My only references were what I heard mainly from Akon Rinpoche or from teachers like Tai Situpa. And even then they were very, how can you say, careful in the way they said things. For the worst cases, they would say, clearly this person isn't authentic. Otherwise, they'd say, well, I wouldn't really go to him if I were you, without saying anything bad about anybody. They'd say, or maybe better you go to Karmapa or Tai Situpa or whatever it is. Because it's part of the Bodhisattva training to see the good in everybody. And to know that even through fake gurus, some people have come to the path. Some of the, like I think it's somebody who was exposed, let's say, and people like His Holiness Dalai Lama and so on said that he was a shame of a talk of Sojal, his case has been much publicized, but nevertheless, when the time of the scandals were happening, many people contacted me and said, but without him, I wouldn't be on the Buddhist path. And then I came to him when I was so mixed up, and he gave me good advice. And that advice saved me, and so on and so on. And then they make organizations through which, they have money, they have big centers, and people come. And so with that, with the like Shukden organization, Nukadampas and so on, there have been problems, but there's been a lot of good as well. So it's very, very hard. It's not black and white. And we live in an age which is famous. It's in the predictions of Guru Rinpoche. It's a time when false gurus abound and people are very attracted to them. These days that I see instructions, teachings, diagrams, and so on social media, which were the most secret of the most secret. And even most lamas, most Rinpoches wouldn't have access to them. There'd be diagrams about inner channels and chakras and practices that the teacher would take out and show you. And you'd look for a few minutes and you'd snapshot it in your mind. And that was the only copy of that text in existence, and now it's all over the internet. So people are very attracted by this. They want to learn Tummo when they've not sorted out their morality and things like this. So it's very, very hard to say. All I can do, because I need to respect my own bodhisattva training and my own authenticity about not saying bad about somebody else who's taken the bodhisattva vow, is that if people contact me privately and they say, I'm very attracted to this person, this teacher, what do you think? Then I can do my best to help them. But the problem is there's been so much competition between Buddhist traditions, Buddhist schools in Tibet, followers of this Lama and that Lama, that putting down another Lama and what they do is not nice currency, and you don't want to feed into it. It's a minefield. It's a minefield. So I'm not going to put up a list on Facebook, this one, but if you listen to my talks, when I refer, the only lamas I refer to will be the ones that I trust.
Thank you very much, Ken. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ken, following on from that, thanks, Anna. That's a really useful question. Yeah, I suppose my take on it so far has been, because I think I've asked you this similar question before, it has been that the way I'm regarding these teachings is with the mind that I may well not get to take this very far beyond a very basic level of like practicing basic shamatha and things like that. But at the same time, it feels like a really long-term investment and something that's kind of like setting a landmark a long way away to aim for and try and keep my mind on. But that's all I can do at the moment, I think.
No, we are.
I don't know if that comment helps.
We are planting seeds. You see sometimes on social media these brilliant people who they say like 40 years ago they took this piece of wasteland and then they planted and they did this and now the whole thing is a forest and it's got wildlife and so on. We are planting seeds. And there's not just this life, we have many future lives. And I think just by hearing these wonderful words of the third Karmapa, hearing some things from the commentary of the 8th Tai Situpa, our present Tai Situpa, and trying our best to understand what's going on. We are making a connection. And it's not just a connection, with some, Kaju lineage in Tibet, Karmapa succession and so on. It's not what it's about. We're making a connection with the truth of our own minds. So, maybe in some future life, in a very different universe where we've got 9 arms and 3 heads, and our gurus are little flying balls of light that work by telepathy, still it will be the same thing. the nature of mind, which always was and always is and will be, and that some people call God and some people call Buddha nature, it doesn't matter. We are learning to see beyond the habits of our mind, to discover this universal truth of everyone and everything. And at the same time, through that discovery of goodness, what is all good, to overcome what is in us and which damages us and which damages other people through what we do. That will always be the same.
Ken?
Thanks for the diagram too.
Oh yeah, welcome. Yeah, Roz.
Sorry for interrupting. It's a habit I'm trying to let go of. You've obviously you're taking quotations from the commentary by the 8th Tai Situpa as well as the 12th. Is there actually a book, a translation of the 8th Tai Situpa's commentary?
Yeah, it's not. It's not in print anymore.
Okay.
But I've got a PDF of it.
Oh.
Yes. So I almost at one point thought of sending it out to everyone who's signed up for the course. But what I found in my own meditation journey is it's so nice when you hear things for the first time from the horse's mouth. Whereas if you've got a book, and you can read up on the next verse, you've already got preconceptions, and you think, yeah, I've read that, I remember seeing that. It's not quite the same as like hearing for the first time. So, but if anyone wants the PDF, sure, I can send it to them. And if everyone wants, I can just mail it out to the Mahamudra mailing list. The translations, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have been very disciplined about not reading ahead in the Ocean of Certainty book.
Yeah.
So I promise I wouldn't read it anyway. Thank you. Yeah.
Hello.
Focus, hello there. Yeah.
Sorry, my throat. But I was just thinking, so because obviously we've practiced probably in past lives, but because of our Dharma practice in this life, does it mean that we can be particularly helpful to the beings in this life that we're connected to? Right.
Well, these practices, they make us useful to ourselves, mostly. And then through our own awakening, our own liberating different parts of who we are, then we will be more use in the long term for everybody. In this life, it's very hard to say, because that depends on karma. Sometimes in this life, in our family, friends, and people we meet, we have a community of people who can benefit either visibly or invisibly. Visibly because we can talk about these things, we can practice together, we have Dharma center connections and so on. Or invisibly, something just rubs off. Sometimes we have people like that. Sometimes the karma means that in this life, we can be very isolated, and there's very, very little that can be done visibly for the people who are in our lives. That's entirely a story painted by karma. No one can tell, but invisibly, then what we are doing all the time. Like if you do refuge practice, for instance, we imagine we're there taking refuge, but then people we know in this life are the ones closest to us, friends and enemies. And our prayer is that through what I'm doing, when we meet up again and again in future lives through karma, may they also take refuge, may they develop on this path. But I think it's very wise to know that the main benefit for our practice is for ourselves, for the long-term benefit of everybody. So it's not selfish. I think that needs to be first and foremost, because in the Bodhisattva teachings on diligence, it says, if you were the only Buddhist left on earth, you know, the only person who thinks about these things, the only person who plonks themselves down and meditates, the only person who knows the word Bodhisattva and Buddha and enlightenment, still you would practice with all the moral code of the Bodhisattva, no matter what's going on around you, no matter how corrupt and horrible and what other people are doing, still you do it. This is very important. This self-confidence in the Bodhisattva path. It's not ego, it's connecting us to the truth, because otherwise, if we gauge our development by the effect we have on others, it will become very complicated. And one of the ego traps of the Bodhisattva path is called compassion, or so-called compassion without prajna. When we practice as a Bodhisattva, we have two very top priorities: ego down, compassion up, right? They should go together. Which means that people can get confused between being a Bodhisattva and being a wonderful human being. You can be a wonderful human being doing lots of great things for other people and just making your ego stronger and stronger and stronger. You can be going around the world and telling people and telling yourself, I'm a Bodhisattva, look, I'm going to do this for you. And you're not nice to me, but I'm going to take it so kindly because I'm a Bodhisattva. And we can really make Bodhisattva a reinforced, concrete, strong ego. So from the outset, it says you need skillful means and wisdom. The wisdom is the wisdom of no self. We do good because that's the most natural thing to do. People need it. And seeing through the illusions of self from the beginning is very, very important. So I'm sorry, it's a very long and unnecessary answer to your question, but it's just taking advantage to develop that point, you know.
No, I think that's really helpful to me, especially,
Yeah.
definitely a few things you said there are very helpful to me.
Because
So
sometimes we try and
yeah.
help people in our family or in our partner, we're partners with them or whatever, and it doesn't work. And it doesn't work. And it's not because the Bodhisattva path doesn't work, it's just their karma. And it's
also what you said about your, focusing on yourself too, because not it's to get that balance, isn't it, of not, totally disregarding yourself.
Yeah.
Confidence. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I'll see everyone in a fortnight, and be well and take good care of yourselves. And bye-bye.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Again, bye everyone.
Thank you.
Bye everybody.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good.
Try
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.